everybody wants it done. So it's going to get done.
Here now to break down everything that's happened today and where things could be headed, retired Naval Intelligence Commander Dr. Paul Chabot. He also served as White House senior advisor to Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush. And it's always good to see you, Dr. Chabot. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to be with you this evening.
Let me ask you this. We're sitting back kind of watching this unfold from 8:30 in the morning to 1:30 to 4:30, and the story has changed drastically. And that is the age we live in, where presidents are on social media, essentially lifting the curtain and telling us what's happening in any given hour. But where do you think things landed at the end of the day?
Well, the latest out of Iran, according to their foreign minister spokesman, is that no decision has been reached. There is no final agreement. Their statement has been that that a large portion, basically, of the text has already been agreed to, quote unquote. But now they're stating that the U.S. has been shifting the goalposts, if you will. I think this is more of the gamemanship on Iran. I also feel that when the president announced potential hits, specifically mentioning Karg Island, there was a lot of pushback from that. From a military perspective, you never want to announce a takeover. Karg Island is 90% of Iranians' oil. We are looking at that. We have been for quite some time. And to say we're going to take that island would have put our Marines that would have gone ashore there in grave danger. That island's about the size of some World War II islands that our Marines had taken. So historically, yes, we can do it, but B, you just don't mention it outright.
I do want to ask you, when you have a threat like that that's laid out about Karg Island or about even just Iran being hit, as the president alluded to, very hard, at that point, does Iran basically say, wait a minute here, we know this president has acted on threats before and that we should be careful and perhaps decide to come back to the table?
I think, the difficult thing for the American people to wrap our arms around is that the nation of Iran is nowhere like Iraq or the United States from how it was controlled. They have two sectors of government. They certainly have a president, but it's a weak president that only runs the administration. Now, certainly the foreign ministry falls under that component, but Iran is run through the IRGC, the Ayatollah, if you will. So ultimately, it is up to the Ayatollah what happens with any sort of a peace agreement. Now, certainly the president has said today that he believes the Ayatollah has signed off on this, but again, Iran's foreign ministry has said no, there is no agreement. Now, remember, in the last 72 hours, there's been significant military conflict. The Iranian drone took down one of our helicopters in the Strait. We then struck back at Iran along a lot of their radar installations. Iran then struck back at the United States and our allies at our military bases. And then, of course, you heard Trump say we're going to basically begin bombing and potentially take Karg Island.
Okay, so we talk about what's known as a proportionate response, something that you're very familiar with, having worked in the military, and those of us here in political reporting know that what that looks like. But then there's disproportional bombing that can happen as well, because there's some disruption that needs to happen. Is there a fear that this escalation could take place in the next 24, 36 hours?
Yeah, I think there always is. Historically, we've seen what we can do to strike. We do not need to put boots on the ground. Tomahawk missiles, which we have on our subs and ships, can fly right over those waters deep into Iran and strike targets. The question is, does that move the goalposts? I just don't know. As of tonight, we learned that the UN has blasted Iran for not allowing UN inspectors to come in and look at the nuclear sites. That historically has been a problem. And then Trump also alluded to today that basically we've been escorting about 12 ships per day on average of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz, which, as we know, has mined and very dangerous. So there is a lot going on to help try to alleviate gas prices. Oil prices are down today. Stock market is up on the recent comments. But coming back to square one, historically, what we've seen is very little change, a tit for tat, strike against each other, and waiting for a true deal. As of tonight, I just don't see it happening based on the Iranians' latest response.
Last question has to do with, what the hope here is for those who don't pay close attention each and every hour. The bottom line is opening up the Strait of Hormuz where it was, and also obliterating those nuclear weapons. How that's done, and with or without cooperation, is the big question here tonight.
Yeah, and look, either way, it is extremely dangerous. Trump has specifically said no boots on the ground. So then how are we going to get the enriched uranium, about 1,000 pounds out that's buried? Very dangerous. But Trump also signaled today about this potential signing of a deal, which would happen in Europe over the weekend. And he specifically mentioned that Vice President Vance would attend. I don't know if these are hypotheticals or if there actually are items in the works. My guess, and we've talked about this before, is that there's two sides within Iran. The side more on the presidential side, but has less power, that wants to negotiate. But really, it's controlled by the IRGC and the Ayatollah, which is very anti-America, anti-Israel, and largely controls the country. That is why this is so difficult to come to terms with.
I bet you many war correspondents and political reporters are heading towards Europe right now in case that does happen. Of course, this weekend, we'll be watching it carefully through their eyes and their microphones in the days to come. And we thank you so much for your perspective here today. Dr. Paul Chabot, always great to talk to you.
My pleasure. Thank you.